Sam here. I had finally decided to do a review about the Model 3. Had the car for about a year and a half now, and wanted to make sure that it lived up to everything I thought it would before I did a review on it. And I have to say it did. I am a full believer that the future is definitely electric vehicles. I mean, whether it's going to be Tesla or not, I don't know on that part, but I can tell you that the cars are amazing. Hey everyone, thanks for coming and viewing the video. I'm guessing you're in the market for a Model 3, or you're possibly just wondering, is it really all it's made up to be? You know, you probably hear people talking about they love it. You might hear some people say they hate it. So I put together this review. I've had the car for, well, mine for over about a year and a half. My wife's is, I think, probably about 6 months now. But yeah, I wanted to wait until I had a long period of time with the car so I could actually make a recommendation and, you know, come up with everything I liked about it, didn't like about it. I'll go to start by saying I was a day one reservation holder, so I signed up, I think it was like May of 2016, May of 2016, I'm trying to think now. Yeah, May of 2015, huh? I think I waited 2.5 years is what I waited for it. So I put the money down. The dates originally got skewed a little bit. I think it was originally supposed to be released beginning of that, so you'd had one whole year, and then the February of the next year is when I was what I was hearing when I signed up for it. I didn't end up getting mine until August. That has a little bit to do with I ended up going with the performance version. The way I was looking at it is like, if I'm going to buy I was going to buy a long range anyways, then I was like, well, I want all-wheel drive, and then I was like, well, if I'm going to get all-wheel drive, I might as well just get a performance version. So I can say there's zero regrets on that. It's by far the funnest car to drive. Drives great. I have no issues like mechanically with it or anything. I have to say that there are flaws to the car, but I'm gonna go over the pros first. So I have a few written down up here. So it's just like, the thing's fast. Like, I don't know if you like fast cars. Even if you don't like fast cars, you'll like the car if you ever get the performance one. I'll tell you right now, it's 0 to 60 in like 3 seconds, maybe a little less now. Is by far, like, I mean, if you like roller coasters, it's very similar. You'll get thrown back in your seat. You know, people start screaming and laughing. It's fun. Fun car to drive. Makes you use a little bit more energy probably than what you would on normal cars, because the normal model, my wife's model and everything, I got her a long range single wheel drive. They don't make that one anymore. They actually don't make mine anymore either. I have the Performance Minus, so I didn't get there was a Performance Minus, Performance Plus that came out when they originally were released, and the Performance Minus was pretty much the exact same as the Performance Plus, minus a spoiler, minus the wheels, and minus the pedals. It had racing pedals in it. I'm the type person, I like a sleeper car, so I just I wanted it to be undercover fast, which I got what I wanted. It was great. So I went with the Performance Minus. They don't offer that anymore. That goes into my cons, but so let me get back to pros. No maintenance since I've had the vehicle, like, other than rotating my tires, and I've done that when the Tesla service guy, Rick, he comes down, and, you know, if he checks out anything on the car, he does the rotation of the tires while he's here. So I think I've done him like twice or 3 times, I don't know. But I've taken the car on a very long range. I mean, I drove 5,000 miles back to Arizona. Not just this Christmas, but the last Christmas before that, and zero problems. I've had nothing wrong with it mechanically. It's actually pretty amazing. And if it goes like that for 10 years, then it's well worth its money. So it's quiet, like weird quiet. Like when you first get into it, if you're coming from a gas, I came from a Chrysler 200. Um, when you get in it and you're like, it's on, and you don't know it's on, and then you're like, okay, it takes a little getting used to. It's funny because that's the first thing people say. They're like if they ever ride with me or whatever, they'll get in the car and then I'll press the pedal and it'll start moving, and they're like, it's on. Like, yeah, it's really quiet. The road noise as you get on like the highway and stuff, I mean, there's still some road noise, but it's weird because I hear people like complain about it, but the thing is, you have to realize that there's no engine, right? So you don't have that engine noise to block out the road noise. So you might see some stuff online about people saying that the road noise is not bad at all. They actually sell like a seal kit if you want to go through, because the whole top of the roof is glass, which you can see later in the video. I kind of show them in my garage. Just I like to see if stuff's going to fit in my garage before I buy it, right? Which is like my issue with the Tesla truck right now. I signed up for it or for the next one, but it's I don't think it's going to fit in my garage with the current specs, so I'm kind of sad about that. I don't know what I'm going to have to do. I don't want to really park it outside. I don't like parking my stuff outside. But yeah, the view is great. That's the other pro. Like, it's so relaxing. Like, it changes your driving. Like, I used to, right now I'm a systems engineer. Before that, I was in the military. I was in the Air Force, and then before that, I was actually a traveling technician. So I drove a lot. I drove like 2,000 miles a week. It was pretty crazy. I had a very long driving job, and I didn't not like driving, but I didn't like driving because of it, right? Like, spending 2,000 miles a week in a car is not fun. So it's brought the fun back to driving. Like, and it's just like peaceful. Like you're driving, and with autopilot on it, like, you're still paying attention, but like you just don't have it. It gets rid of a lot of the stress, and it's one thing that's part of the reason why I got rid of my wife's SUV, because the thing is, like, I couldn't drive it. Like, I could not go from driving a electric vehicle to an SUV, mostly just because of the autopilot. And yeah, like, I mean, I'd get out of her car and I'd leave it running. I'd forget that, like, I actually have to turn it off, like, stuff like that. So I'm gonna go through some cons now. Cons was like, Tesla has some problem with like lack of standardization in a lot of their vehicles, which, as I mentioned earlier, like they had a long range single wheel drive. They don't make that anymore. They had a performance minus. They don't make that anymore. And they tend to, when they do that, it's weird. You'd think that there'd be like a price change or something like that, but like most of the time, the people that buy the other ones kind of get screwed. It is weird. Like the performance minus people, they pretty much gave everyone else performance plus, for like the same price that we paid performance minus. They were actually giving people money. They're giving performance plus people money back, but they didn't give us money or give us like the performance plus parts or anything like that. So it was kind of annoying on that part. But I mean, the vehicle's still, once you drive one and once you own one, I promise you it's a great decision. People really worry about the cost. I do cost a little different than most people. I look at overall cost, right? Like if I go through, like, yeah, okay, the upfront cost of a Tesla is by far higher than a normal vehicle for what you're looking at, right? Like, even if you go, let's go with the standard range right now, which is, I think it's running 35,000-ish now. I don't think it changed. That's like what I have up here that I wrote down. So 35,000 is, if you look at it, is definitely more than your common mid-size sedan, or even full-size sedan, because it's pretty roomy inside. But you have to look at that in the way that there's no gas costs, there's no maintenance costs, really. I mean, other than if you rotate the tires, you can either take it somewhere or you can have the guy do it. I think it's like $30 if they do it at your house or whatever. So either way, it's the maintenance costs on it are zero. Like, you don't have to worry when you're going out of town. Like, before, I used to take a trip with my family or whatever and be like, oh, did I go get the oil change, Tasha? You know, like, I'm gonna get the oil change after work, blah 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 blah. And there's none of that. Like, oh, you want to go out? The only thing you have to do is pretty much make sure it's charged. But I mean, I just plug it in at night and it charges. For over a year almost, I had it plugged directly into the wall, just a 110 outlet, same thing that you would find upstairs. And my commute in the morning is like 16 miles, 13, 16 miles, something like that. Never had a problem with it for a year. Just, I would use that, charge 2-3 times a week. And then on the weekend, of course, on Saturday or whatever, I'd let it charge most of the morning. But I actually, when we got my wife's, I installed the 240 outlet, and that one charges at 30 miles an hour. It takes about 6.5 hours for mine to get fully charged. I think same about for hers. But with that, there's zero, like, it's actually pretty fast if you think about it. Like, if I live about 60 miles away from Raleigh, so Raleigh, North Carolina, and I go up to Raleigh a decent amount. And if I need to go to Raleigh or whatever, it's like, okay, I'll plug it in. I'll probably already have 100 miles or so on it, just waiting. But I'll plug it in for an hour or two, and then I'll just get ready to leave, get in the car, and drive off, and I have nothing to worry about. There's also superchargers everywhere. There's superchargers, like when I drove from here to Arizona almost a year ago, a little bit over a year ago, I had zero problems finding superchargers. I drove all the way there on superchargers. I did charge, I think, at night at a hotel, but other than that, I didn't have to. Actually, one of the hotels I went to, their charger wasn't working, so I had to go to a supercharger. And like I said, range anxiety, I think I had range anxiety for the first 2 stops. And then after that, like, you don't even think about it anymore. I know my wife, it takes a little getting used to. She's ran out of gas before, right? Like, forget that you have gas, but we drive gas vehicles for a long time. But she hasn't ran out of charge, so that's good. That's a benefit. But even with that, like, the superchargers is, with the newest update, it was like, I think it's like 30 minutes for almost full charge, 45 minutes tops. When I drove across the country, 5,000 miles one way, or no, sorry, take that back, 2,500 miles one way, it was 5,000 round trip. I actually, if you're by yourself and you don't have kids, I have 2 kids, so if you're by yourself, you would probably just charge full, drive to the next supercharger, which is about 250, 300 miles-ish, depending on what version of the car you have. For me, it was like easier. It was easier to keep the car at a lower charge and drive about 120 miles, 150 miles, and then stop, charge at that next charger for 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. Because the thing is as the vehicle's battery gets fully charged, it slows down the charge, right? So if you can actually keep your charge at above like 15%, 15-20%, and then below like 60-70%, and you can get in that buffer zone, it actually works out really well. It'll charge super fast. It charges like that first, like in that chunk, I'd say probably about 20 minutes would be from, if you were at minimum 20 to like 70%. But my kids need to go to the bathroom every hour and a half anyways, 2 hours, so it worked out perfect. I would stop at a gas station or the hotel that was there that had the supercharger, plug in, they'd get out, go to the bathroom. By the time they were done going to the bathroom, get in the car, and we'd drive off and go to the next one. Super easy. So for cost, you have to think about, sorry, I went off, I guess, a little bit, but for cost, you have to think about that it is higher up front, but you will obviously make that up over the course of not paying for gas, not paying for oil changes, maintenance costs. And they run longer. Like, zero problems. I have 25,000 miles on mine, like I said, and I rotated the tires. That's it. Like, if it keeps going, and I mean the warranties, there is warranty on it. The warranty, I think, for mine is, I think it's longer than my wife's, but it's like 8 years, 120,000 miles or whatever for the, that's for the drivetrain and the battery. I think it's 40,000 or 60,000 for the, like, full, like, if anything breaks inside. Oh, sorry. So that's like, if you add that in, and let's say that you keep the vehicle for 10 years and you look at your average cost for gas, your average cost for maintenance, that $35,000 car becomes more of a $25,000 car over the 10 years. So yeah, you're paying that extra 10 up front, but you're also making up for it with the next 10 years that you own it, with not having to get gas, not having to do maintenance on it, which saves you time in the long run as well. People say, well, oh, that time's offset to charging, but if you charge it mostly when you're at home and you're sleeping or whatever, then it really, you don't have to count the charging time. So it's by far, I wasn't necessarily a EV guy before. Still not, I mean, still not, right? There's times when you don't want an electric vehicle. If you're driving long commutes every day, and you're talking about, it's about 80% range on that battery, which if you look at, I think I have that written down, the range on the standard model range is 220 on a 220 miles on the standard range Model 3. If you're driving, I'd say 80% of that a day, it's probably not your best bet, right? Like, if you're doing that, then you should probably get a 320 mile one and, you know, use that one. But it's not a good thing to do. Like, that wouldn't be a good investment, at least in my opinion. If you had a extremely long commute like that, just because having to worry every day about the charge happening, and oh, you know, like, I make sure I plug it in, because there has been times, right, like, well, I'll come home, I'll think I plugged it in or something, and then, like, I'll be leaving the next morning and, oh, I didn't charge, but I'm pretty safe on my charging, so it's like, okay, I'll just charge when I get back from work today, like, not a big deal. But if I lived, you know, extremely far from work or something, then that would be a much bigger issue. So I'm going to talk about Autopilot for a while. I'll try to get some annotations in the comments and stuff, so if you guys want to, like, go to the correct place so you don't have to listen to all my babbling. But Autopilot, that's the big one, right? Like, everyone's like, oh, does that car drive itself? And it's like, what's your definition of driving itself? Does the car drive itself? Yes? No. It's hard to say. It keeps itself in a lane and it keeps its speed. So technically it drives itself at that point. But no, you're not going to fall asleep in it right now. The current configuration of that car is on autonomous levels. You know, I think level 5 is completely full. Like, I don't have to worry about anything. It's level 2 right now from what I remember. People call it level 3 sometimes, but it's level 2. You'll take over multiple times during a drive. And that's not necessarily because you're about to die. It's mostly, the vehicle's actually pretty good at saying, like, hey, take over, hey, touch the wheel, hey, you know, it's the equivalent, from what I've found, is like, if I was driving with, like, a 10-year-old, I would guess that's what would happen. Like, you can get a 10-year-old, like, oh, you want them to, like, do crazy maneuvers and stuff, like, yeah, they're not going to do that. But if you were to put, like, a 10-year-old behind a wheel, I mean, don't do that. But if you were to do that, you could probably put them on a straight, kind of curved road maybe, and they would probably do okay with it. And there'd be times that they'd be like, oh, there's a giant curve coming up and I don't trust myself, can you help me? Okay, yeah. So yeah, like, think of it as a assisted driver that's sitting there with you, and you're ready to take over at a moment's notice. That's when it says it drives itself. That's what it does right now with Autopilot. Now, it's supposedly the hardware in it, and I did for mine. I didn't for my wife's. For mine, I bought the full self-driving package. I had that with it. And I actually, yeah, like next week or so, I'm going up to the service center and they're going to install the version 3 chip, because when I got mine, they were still on the version 2 hardware. So painless from what I've seen so far. I'll find out. Actually, I will do an update on the review after I get that installed and see how it goes. The only difference right now is, so for the past year and a half I've owned the vehicle, there hasn't been any difference between the software updates, right? Like a version 3 software, version 2, actually 2.5 software, are the software for hardware version 2.5 and version 3. There's been no difference really until this most recent one, which actually I show you kind of the interface and everything later on in the video if you want to see it. But yeah, that there had been no difference until that update. That update has enabled the visualization of full self-driving. So right now, when you see the vehicle, you'll see it on the screen, and you'll see it on the road, and you'll see the other vehicles coming at you, see the vehicles going away from you, but you don't see like stop signs, you don't see stoplights, you don't see speed limit sign, you don't see any of that. So with the new update and the version 3 hardware, which I do not have yet, I will be getting in a week, you now see those. You can turn that on to where you can see the stop sight, so you can see what the car sees, and that's the cool part. Is I guess actually, well, I mean that's most of Autopilot, but I'll go into kind of the technology behind it. So I'm a systems engineer. I work on computers and do computer stuff, and if you look at the technology behind it, it's pretty amazing the differences. Like if you look at other like Waymo, you look at other self-driving vehicles and stuff, a lot of them, there's a big debate over LiDAR, over what is the proper hardware that's needed to make a car drive itself. And Elon Musk's been a firm believer that it can be done with vision only. Whether or not I know, I mean, we'll find out shortly, right? Vision only with a deep neural net that's attached to it. So not like, yeah, vision only, but you also have to build the brain behind it, right? So, which a deep neural net, a lot of people think that like machine learning and neural nets are like some crazy, like, oh my goodness, they're going to take over the world. But if you actually look at a neural net, the only difference is there's inputs, there's weights that get applied to those inputs mathematically, and there's outputs. It is pretty crazy on how a computer can, you can train the weights on the computer so that it actually gives you the correct output. I mean, that's why they're called hidden layers, stuff like that. You can't actually see what's going on in them. But the neural net that they have running on the vehicle was just updated in one of the recent releases of software. And it's funny, if you go online, you'll look at the forums like Reddit or something, and you can see that there's been degradations to the self-driving, right? Like oh, my vehicle now is doing weird stuff when it's attempting to change the lane. Before it wasn't. So what they're doing is, if you look at Teslas, they are a giant beta test. Like, no joke. That's what the vehicle is. It's a giant beta test for every. They're testing software. They're testing the hardware. They're testing a concept, and they're seeing if it can work. The people that buy the vehicles are it's an investment almost on that part, right? Is you look at it as like, if it does work, sweet. If it doesn't work, well, I guess we're kind of all screwed. But it's pretty crazy. I at first was like, there's no way that a neural net would be able to do it all. But after watching the car drive and stuff, they have so many data points and so much data ingested from all the vehicles that they've sold so far, that they have enough data to actually train the neural net, from what I believe now. That's the thing, is like, a lot of people are like calling Elon Musk crazy, like, oh, you have to use LiDAR, you have to do that. But the truth is if you can, what you're not seeing with LiDAR can be replaced with the sheer amount of data that they have in vision. So what every car is seeing, they can train that neural net on a much more constrained system compared to what a normal car manufacturer would be able to train just cameras on. And that's the thing, is like a lot of people out there, I don't think they understand how much data the cars give back to the mothership, to Tesla, right? It's like, I don't know if they've ever released how many terabytes worth of data comes in, but it's with as many cars as I've seen, and you can hook you can have your car hooked up to your Wi-Fi at home, right? And you can see like random traffic going inbound, outbound, or whatever. But you can see stuff that happens, and there's every car is giving a lot of data. Pretty much everything you would ever want to know, whether or not the wheel chain, your steering wheel had changed, the slightest angle. All of that is viewable by Tesla if they want. So that is, sorry, I broke into the tech talk type stuff, but I think I've talked about pretty much everything. Like I said, there's later on after this, I have a walkthrough of the whole new software that came out. That's 2019 40.50.5, I believe. That's the newest release right now. But I go through there and I kind of just show you the interface if you're interested in that. If there's anything that like I didn't touch on or I'm boring you to death, because I might, I just thought if you want to listen to someone who's owned the car, multiple of them, and I've had them for a long time, well, as long as it's possible to have them, the Model 3s. I wanted to give you my peace of mind on it. If you have any specific questions or anything, leave me comments below, and subscribe to the channel. Like I said, in about a week, I will be updating with whether or not my version 3 install went well, what I liked differently or what I saw differently in it. I'll get some video of the inside of the car too if you want to see that. Pretty much just let me know. I do Tech Talks podcast as well that I'm trying to start up. So if you guys are interested in podcasts and you're bored on the way to work and you want my voice to fall asleep to, go ahead, subscribe, and yeah, let me know what you think. But thanks for watching. As you can see up in the right hand corner, it says 2019 40.50.5. That's actually the newest software out right now. We'll go ahead and check out the release notes. Release notes for this one were about the same as 2019 40.50.2, I believe, is what I had before this. Just kind of going over the voice commands that now you can use with the car. Other phone improvements, like you can actually get your text messages on your phone. You can see them in the car now. Camp mode, which allows you to pretty much keep everything on, including your AC, while you're out. The Tesla Theater, I think they added Twitch TV now. Yeah. So Stardew Valley's added to it. Backgammon. The voice keyboard, I haven't tried it out, not sure how it works. Tracks is pretty cool. I used that a couple times just kind of through the drive-through. Save dash cam clips on honk, that's pretty cool. The driver profiles is good. Works better. On my wife's, she has a Tesla too, so we, sometimes we'll swap cars or whatever, and the driver profiles actually pick up pretty well. Like my seat settings and everything will get set in there, and when I get in, it knows it's me, so it's pretty cool. Previous release notes, oh yeah, that was just the changing in the lane speeds. A lot of people didn't like it. I haven't really had any changes in it. I didn't really notice that much, but I don't have a lot of traffic on my way to work and stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn it this way real quick while I go through the settings. I just have my VIN number and stuff. I didn't really want to show everyone. But yeah, so over here you have your quick controls, exterior lights, front fog lights. You can adjust your mirrors. You do that, and you use the little button on. Wow, it is really dark. Yeah, lighting's not too good in here. But yeah, you pretty much use the little left. It's like a little up and down scroll bar that you can pretty much use, and it'll move your windows left, right, tilt them. It's pretty cool. The mirror auto fold's actually pretty nice. If you're in a garage like I am that has like pretty tight corners and stuff, your mirrors will auto fold as it opens up the garage for you. Let's see here. The unfold, if you want to unfold the mirrors, you can set your windows to lock. I have the brightness turned up right now, but normally that's on auto. Pretty much all your lights can be controlled in here. High beams, headlights after exit. If you want the steering wheel lights on, you can go into your locks. Kind of tells you everything, that all your keys that are assigned to the car. I have quite a bit. Then you can also change if you want your window lock here and your child lock. You'll notice that in the UI there's a few settings that are in multiple places, but there's not really that much difference to it. For the display, you can go into screen clean mode, where it'll turn everything black and you'll have to hold the button for like 3 seconds for it to come back on, but it lets you wipe the screen off, which I probably should have done. I don't know how dirty my screen is right now, but I have kids, so more than likely there's some fingerprints on it because they like to play games. But as for driving, this is the cool part. So you've set these per driver profile as well. So like when my wife gets in, you know, I think I have her acceleration set to chill, because this is the all-wheel drive performance model, and it's pretty fast. It's by far the fastest car I've ever been in, and it's pretty fun to drive. So I normally keep it on the sport mode with the sport steering, and the regenerative braking I've never been on low, but you get used to it real fast. Like the first time you drive it, it might be a little weird, but it really becomes natural after a few. Then they had enabled track mode. I put it in once, but it disables all the safety features pretty much, and allows you to pretty much take control over the whole car. So you have the stopping mode. Before there was only creep and hold, I believe, which the old hold was different than the new hold. But it pretty much, creep will kind of make it feel like you were in one of the regular internal combustion engine cars that, you know, like when you let go of the brake and it kind of starts creeping forward. Well, that'll kind of replicate that. Roll is pretty much, it's in neutral. You'll have to kind of press the brake a little harder to keep it in hold. And then hold mode will automatically brake and regen, and then put your car, when it gets to about 1 mile per hour, maybe a little less, it'll just put itself in hold mode for it. And I don't know, for me, I really like it. It takes a little getting used to. Reverse is kind of weird with it, because like when you press the pedal, you can't really roll by it yourself. You have to actually hold some pressure on the accelerator so that it keeps rolling backwards. But other than that, it's good. Slip start, I've never had to use it, but you know, pretty much does what every other slip start does in any other vehicle with if you get stuck in the snow. Autopilot. This does have the full self-driving. I don't have the version 3 hardware yet. I actually have a service request in for, actually, I think it's 2 weeks from now, I think, and I'm gonna go up to the service center, and they'll go ahead and install the version 3 chip for me. Other than that, you can kind of customize your summon. You can customize navigate on autopilot. Navigate on autopilot's really well thought out, and it works. I mean, it works pretty great for everything I've done. The only thing that's kind of annoying is sometimes it'll try to get into the left lane or something to continue the route, even though it's a straight highway and the left and right lane aren't really different. But I mean, those are just small annoyances, but nothing like, you know, game changing or that I hate too much, and I'm sure it'll get fixed pretty soon. Forward collision warning, lane departure avoidance. Pretty much turn on all the safety features or turn them off depending on how you like it. I recommend them on. It's a really safe car. You know, it's you know, countless times I've had it where it'll beep. I like setting stuff to early, and it'll beep because the car in front of the car that I'm following stopped fast or something. So it just lets you know what's up. But then you have navigation. You can pretty much do automatic navigation, trip planner, which will allow you to add in when you put in a distance that is beyond your charge, your current state of charge, which is up here. If it's beyond 176 miles, it would tell me that I need to stop and charge somewhere. So it'll route you through that charger. Works really well. I drove from North Carolina all the way to Arizona last year. So this was like, yeah, over a year ago, and the system worked great. I never had any issues with it. It was a long trip. That's actually part of the reason I have about 25,000 miles on this now. And yeah, I've had about a year and a half. Safety and security, this tells you you can turn the car off, which is kind of weird. You have to press the brakes to turn it back on, but I don't know. It never really turns off, I don't think. Then you have Sentry mode, which, you know, is the cool thing that you see online a lot, where people catch people doing bad stuff to their car. And then apparently they have the save clips on honk. That was the new setting, so that's in there now. Joe mode just makes all the stuff quieter. Apparently one of the guys who worked had kids, and I guess the stuff was too loud, so yeah. Other than that, let's see, sorry, I touched the screen. Safety and security, we went through. Service. Yeah, this is just the service menu. You can reset the tire pressure sensors, and for some reason, I don't know why, but my back left tire seems to lose random PSI, so I actually recalibrated it for a little less, but other than that, everything's good. This wheel configuration is new. Apparently you can change the size of your rims, so that way it'll update your mileage and everything. But yeah, that's just an overview of this is the newest release software so far, which is the 2019 4050.5. Yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the rest of the review, and thanks for watching.